Kohei Horikoshi's My Hero Academia is one of the best manga in series in Shonen Jump right now. When you look at a combination of the villain setups, possible character arcs and dynamics moving further down the line, and Deku potentially becoming an even more complex and greater character as time passes, I would say that Kohei Horikoshi has placed My Hero Academia in a very interesting position even in the endgame of his series. And with said series taking a week break and no real new My Hero Academia content coming out this week, at least not from Horikoshi himself, I think now is the perfect time to talk about and dive into the current state of My Hero Academia. Now, what do I mean by current state? What exactly am I referring to when I talk about that in the context of a series like My Hero Academia? Well, a few things, several things in actuality. The first of many things includes the amount of time left in the series right now as of the time of recording this video, or at least how far away I would estimate we are from My Hero Academia as we currently know it ending. Now, some people have speculated that similar to series like Naruto or Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia will conclude having tied up the narrative threads going on right now and continue the story of Deku and his journey to become the greatest hero in some sort of My Hero Academia Shippuden or My Hero Academia Part 2-esque fashion. And while this is technically a very real possibility for Horikoshi, especially when you consider all the potential directions he could take this series after the current conflict, to me, there is no current indication of that being in his plan. So for me, my general takeaway from the time left in My Hero Academia is based on the assumption that when it ends completely and doesn't continue in some sort of spin-off or Part 2 like fashion. With that in mind, how long is My Hero Academia currently poised to go on for? Well, when taking into account the little information we have surrounding My Hero Academia's ticking clock, we can assume that the part of the story we are now in is the finale. It has been displayed in chapter 306 that past that point, the final act of My Hero had begun. Many people believe that this means that with the conclusion of this arc, the series will be wrapping up. However, I don't think that this is directly implied by My Hero Academia being in its final act. If, for the sake of argument and simplicity, we say that Horikoshi's overarching story consists of the very typically used 3-story act structure, we'd be able to look back at his past acts and sagas of his in order to get a gauge as to how much content we should be getting for this last act of the series. Now, if we split the amount of arcs outside of this final one evenly, we have an act on average being about 9 or so arcs, although something you need to consider is that these arcs vary wildly in length, narrative importance, and quality. With what I consider being the first act of the series having about 100 chapters worth of content within it, give or take a chapter or two, in comparison, even when made up of a similar amount of arcs, the second act makes up over 200 plus chapters of content, nearly doubling the amount of content and story than the first act, which, if you do know much about the 3-story act structure, makes a lot of sense. For all those who aren't aware, typically, the distribution of content in a 3-story act structure has the first act take up about the first quarter or 25% of the story. This 25% of the content includes introducing characters, setting up the world, introducing plot lines, and many other things that establish a series as a whole, with the second act being more of the confrontation and conflict, as well as functioning as the midpoint and center point of the entire series. Now, taking a look at this distribution of content once more, we can see that Horikoshi has been following the bare bones of this 3-act structure pretty well. The first act is about 100 chapters. The second act is 200 chapters, meaning it covers about 2/4 of the series, as second acts usually do. And with the third and final act being the climax and resolution of the story, this usually means it take up about the final quarter, maybe even slightly less when you consider the fact that climaxes and resolutions to stories are the quickest parts of most narrative, especially in a very visual medium like anime and manga. What this essentially means is that based on the logic used within this video, My Hero Academia's final act, or its final saga if you will, would be composed of roughly 100 chapters. And just doing the quick math on that, that means around somewhere chapter 406 of the series, this manga should be ending or be nearing its final chapters or so. Now, keep in mind a few things when hearing me say this. One, these are all rough estimates and guesswork based off of what has been delivered to us by Horikoshi up to this point, and this is based off of a 3-act structure narrative, meaning that if the series does not abide by these 3-act structures, this is completely off, and my estimations would be based on faulty information. However, seeing as how you can really break My Hero up into about 3 acts, especially with the information that chapter 306 is the final act, I would assume that the general format or the general framework of 3-act structure is being followed. However, this does not mean that the series has to end immediately on chapter 406. But I would guess that in the ballpark area, anywhere from chapter 400 to chapter 430 to 450 is where I would say the sweet spot is, assuming that Horikoshi is not rushed in any way and not forced to elongate his series via pressure from higher ups, and assuming that it follows the 3-act structure in the most typical fashion. Now, I know that a 50 chapter gap is a pretty large one, considering the fact that that's about a year worth of content. However, I would say that that 400 to 430 to 400 to 450 area is where my best guess would be. Now, in terms of linear time, 100 chapters equates to about 2 or so years of content, given some change and given the fact that Horikoshi rarely takes breaks when he's working on the series. Now, if we add the extra 50 chapters that I think is on the higher end of my estimation, that turns that 2 years into about 3 years, which, when saying out loud, is a very weird and surreal thing. However, it is a conclusion I've come to based on the current evidence and knowledge we have on the story. Moving past just the remaining time of the series, however, one other thing I would like to address within this video, talking about the current state of My Hero Academia, is the quality and position it has put itself in terms of ability to establish itself as one of the great shonens, not only in its generation, but in the demographic as a whole, which is something I think that it can truly do if executed correctly, as I would assume Kohei Horikoshi plans to do. Now, I know that many people look at My Hero Academia as a series that is just good or alright, with no ability to become one of the pillars of shonen, like say a Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, etc., etc. However, looking at not only its quality, but impact on the medium and genre, I should say, of anime and manga, and specifically shonen as a demographic, I already think that where it is and where it will continue to go until it ends, and even after it ends, is very bright and filled with potential. Just looking at Kohei Horikoshi's improvement in terms of art and quality over the course of the series paints a pretty detailed picture as to how My Hero has been consistently raising its overall quality as time goes on, arc after arc, saga after saga, and chapter after chapter. Of course, most mangakas' art style and art quality becomes more refined as time goes on. However, with Horikoshi's baseline artistic abilities being higher than most other mangas and games, him only improving on that in basically any and every way is something that is delightfully impressive and visually anytime Horikoshi drops a chapter. This, combined with the fact that his designs and choreography and action and kind of combat scenes have improved greatly since their humble beginnings, I would say on average shows that the manga of My Hero is only getting better and better if we strictly look at it from the artistic side. Now, this next part is obviously only my subjective opinion and interpretation on the matter, but to me, Horikoshi has already created several great villains and antagonistic forces within his series to go along with the many other improvements or achievements that he's made up to this point. Shigaraki, All For One, Stain, Twice, Dabi, and Toga are all, in my opinion, high-quality characters and villains that function not only as characters to oppose Deku and the protagonistic forces, but also seem to have their own motives, goals, and desires outside of just beating Deku. They feel human, as they have their own sense of agency that I really appreciate within antagonists in any series or in any demographic. On top of that, Horikoshi has also been doing really well with the negative portrayal of Deku's traits that we all at one point found extremely wholesome and good-natured as well as heroic, and this has added another layer of depth to one of the best characters in the series, in my opinion. With redemption and atonement arcs that take place over the course of entire series with characters like Bakugo and Endeavor that are honestly so carefully crafted and constructed, I just really like to highlight the fact that Horikoshi has been doing and setting up a lot of things for My Hero's conclusion to be extremely well handled. Throughout the series, Horikoshi seems to have crafted a well put together story, world, themes, and set of characters that will not only go down to be extremely well written and very enjoyable within shonen and anime and manga as a whole, but go down to something that is extremely impactful to the demographic of shonen and battle shonen more specifically. All in all, when looking back at the quality of the past writing in the series and everything that has been building up for 300 plus chapters, and looking towards the potential, the future, and ending for said series, all tied neatly in the iconic and impactful nature of such a big shonen, the current state of My Hero Academia is looking as incredible as it possibly can. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know what your thoughts are on My Hero Academia as we know it right now. Did I hit the nail on the head with my analysis of where it is currently, or did I possibly miss something, get something wrong, or simply just say something about the current state of the series that you happen to disagree with? Let me know down in the comment section below, as this is probably the best way for you guys to communicate with me until I don't know, make a Discord server or something. If you guys did end up enjoying this video and want to see more My Hero Academia content in the near future, make sure to not only like the video, as this lets me know what you guys want to see more or not, but also make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, as will be alerted to when I upload new videos, analyzing or talking about the series in general. Links to similar videos will be in the description below for you guys to enjoy at your own leisure. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, this is Broken Ronin signing off.